Hi, and welcome back to Checkmate the Matrix. Today we have another meeting, a fantastic one. This is, let's call it take two, right? Like in the movies, you got the clapperboard take two because the recording didn't work with the terrible weather that we had last time, and it looks like it's returned. But fingers crossed, everything's still recording, the lights are on. So let's again for take two. Welcome, Callie Spell. How are you doing, Callie?
Hi, Peter. Yeah, thanks for having me again for the return. And yeah, I'm very well. The weather was pretty shocking, wasn't it? And neither of us noticed that the recording had stopped. So we should be well
Yeah,
versed, but we just let things flow, don't we? So it's nice actually. It's kind of even more relaxed this time because we've kind of already had our chat. So I'll try
exactly.
not to be too relaxed. But
We've
yeah,
had a
thank you for having me.
rehearsal, like a
Oh yes, we
rehearsal
have. Yeah,
for like the play, isn't
this
it?
is it.
Going and
Exactly.
rehearsing
And
the school plays, and everybody kept falling off the stage.
it's a great theatre out there, isn't it? We were just chatting just before, and I think that's something not to be flippant and not to be apathetic, but to try and keep in mind to keep our sanity in clown world, isn't it? At the moment, certainly for me anyway. That's my take on it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, to keep yourself, I think, keep yourself grounded and not let yourself get two things really. So like, not get too carried away listening to too many negative stories of everything that's going on. And you've got to know what's going on, but you don't need to get yourself too swallowed by it, you know.
Yeah.
But then also not get going on the other side and sort of like getting too up in the clouds and the fairies and just like waiting for somebody to come and rescue you, because that's not going to happen either. So, you know,
No.
keeping grounded
Exactly.
and directed is I think a very important aspect, especially when you're kind of doing these things that me and you are kind of doing, if we're actually doing anything at all.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's like it was that famous phrase, like you've got to keep your head whilst others lose, theirs around you, and that is about that kind of balancing things, isn't it? In that middle way. So again, I again, not to be flippant, but we're quite niche at Dark Matters, and we'll talk about the network a little bit more because, like you say, it's be of the world, not in it. Same with the legal system, isn't it? You've kind of got to stand the legal fiction and stand the jurisdictions of law and legal, etc., and so on. But you can't let it become this kind of scrying mirror that you stare at and you fall into and get lost in either. So it really is like finding that balance, and it's the same with clown world and the pandemic, and is a huge theatre. And again, we're not to be apathetic, we've got to kind of do, but it's more about kind of creating the new, isn't it? So it's like information be misinformation, and finding that actually it's transformation and inner work, and like I said, not acknowledging what's going on out there because it's going on, but also creating the new, and directing our energy and attention into co-creating something better, basically. So that's kind of more certainly what Dark Matters Network is about, in
Yeah,
essence.
but the thing is as well, I think I've obviously watched like quite a lot of your stuff myself as well, you know, and I do like when I'm trying to do things as well to look at it like on a, like, trying to say it without like, because other people say these words and it just sounds so corny, but you've got to like be looking at the health thing and looking inside as well, you know, because the way
Yeah,
I do quite a lot of things, and I do say it in a jokey way really, but you know, well, you've got to cope with like the zombie apocalypse because it's not coming, it's here, we're in it, and like we're surrounded
yeah.
by zombies and they're going to eat your brains out if you allow them, you know. But you need to be physically, I think, physically fit and healthy and
Yeah,
strong, right? But
yeah.
also mentally, right? You got to be fit and healthy and strong.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely. It's that kind of, it is, the body is a product of the mind. I certainly personally have been taking because spending the last 4 years or so since the pandemic, I was a woman on a mission, really, with my van and my projector, and I was doing talks really early on. I was doing talks in lockdown. I was teaching people commercialized leans, as they said you couldn't gather in groups over, two or three, and we had 30 people in a room and the police turn up, and then I sent the police away. So that was kind of a powerful time, and we were putting all this commercial, legal into practice and wrapping them up with their own rules. But yeah, absolutely, it's kind of we've got to kind of understand it, but we've got to kind of we've got to keep our strength in it, and that is also strength of the body. So I've been on a bit of a health kick. It's that word healthy, isn't it? Heal thy healthy, heal thyself. And we know that it's been an absolute psyop and an assault and a hijack of our consciousness. And when we start to see that, it's almost really, you kind of start to push through the veil without kind of sounding too woo-woo. But once you kind of decode their language, their legalese, when you decode their systems, the Matrix has you type of thing, then, and the symbolism, they're telling us all the time, right? Because, they have to by that kind of their own rules, then we can start to decode it. And I suppose a lot of what we do at Dark Matters is decoding and descripting, so that you're kind of moving out of being the dead legal fiction, out of this kind of, you think that's you're breathing, you're already dead, because all the language is dead language. It's cursive language, spelling, black spells, as we all know. So when we start to become aware, we can't, it's the tool that we've got to communicate, really, in that sense. So we have to work with what we've got, but having that awareness and being able to step outside of it, again, be of the world, not in it, and creating that barrier to it, and that's how, as Peter, we utilize the legal system, but we utilize trust law, etc., and so on, for asset protection. And I suppose what I'm trying to achieve at Dark Matters is that we cover all, the hierarchy of needs. We talk about organic food production, we talk about trust law, we talk about debt and how to get out of it, and just empower people along the way. So from crypto education to BSV to anything that can remove yourself from the matrix, just like you do at Checkmate the Matrix, then we're kind of doing a similar thing. And it's really, really cool that we all are connecting in with each other and appreciating what the others are doing and promoting each other as well, because that's it, innit? That's what the network is. It's about working together and because the greatest tool, and it sounds like a simple thing to say, but we know it's divide and conquer. So if we're creating division about arguing who's right or wrong or who's doing it better, or we've already failed. So I'm very kind of passionate about hopefully trying to get everybody communicating and networking. And we've just started the Dark Matters directory, which is a new kind of project to the main network. And that's going to link in all the projects up and down the country, whether you want a holistic dentist or, holistic healthcare or whatever it is you need, whether to, awake events or we just got to keep talking, keep, creating awareness and keep that connection to one another in a positive way. That's how I kind of see it.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Especially on the unity thing and being united together. And it doesn't matter if you don't see things like 100% the same as even each other. It doesn't matter. It's not that's not the important part. The important part is to obviously have each other's back, right? And whoever else would be in that network have their back, and they can have your back, and everybody just you can agree to disagree on certain aspects, as long as what is it you say? Your nana used to tell you we're all going in the same way, but on a different bus.
You remembered it, yeah.
So that's what we're doing. We're all going the same place. We're going to get there in the end. We might take a few detours, and it might be on a different bus, and some of you might get a taxi, and some people have to use the bike. But we're all going to get there in the end, and we'll just help each other along as we do it. And that's the only way to do it is by unity, because, right, they've been doing this divide and conquer forever. And it's still working perfectly. So they're not going to change what ain't broke. They're not going to fix it. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And they're still using it all the time. So if we have any kind of common sense, then we need to at least work with each other on everybody that's in the kind of same mindset, moving towards trying to maintain the freedoms really that we're supposed to actually have. Because if we're not going to fight for those freedoms now to try and maintain them, then our grandchildren are going to have a horrendous life.
Yeah, exactly. And, it is for our sons and daughters. And it is this returning to, for me, certainly, to creativity connection or being co-creators of the creator. So as I always say, I'm not into organized religion. Religion comes from religia, the Latin to hold back, to thwart, to bind. So we know about the constructs, we know about the contracts, we know about the confines. That's why we get buried in coffins. It's this boxing us in and boxing us in and boxing us in, and it's this division. And there's so much information out there, isn't there? And there's so much misinformation. It's no wonder that we're all puddled. And I think part of being an adept in the game, and again, I don't want to be too flippant and call it a game, but let's call it a game for ease, is to kind of get to that point where you understand that narratives are moving our consciousness, and if we're constantly stirring at theirs, that's what we'll kind of create. So it's like you say, Peter, exactly. It's important for us to kind of look at it, to empower ourselves with the tools to battle it as and when needed. One of the commercial maxims, isn't it? He who leaves the battlefield first loses by default. So we hold position and we stand ground. But it's also about understanding that, like my nana said, we're all trying to get to the same place on a different buzz. So if you're saying that you believe in whatever it is you want to believe in. I mean, I'm at the moment on the Dark Matters podcast series too, we're heavily into Ireland as Atlantis, Great Britain as, literally translates as people of the covenant, and Scotland as the Holy Land, and that they've been lying, and that they're saying Babylon's in the east when actually ancient Babylon was over here. And again, I love these stories. I love this narrative, and we can pull the proverbial thread, but I'm not going to go around saying you're wrong, you're right, because these narratives are moving my consciousness. They're raising my frequency. They're creating neural pathways in my head to move me on. So I'm for you, brother, if you've got a different story that's doing that for you. And I think that's what's kind of key. And I'm quite passionate about this, as you can tell, going on a little rant. But because everything else causes division, and what I find quite hilarious is that, such and so is arguing with such and so about this timeline or that. Whoa. Baby Jesus and the orphans, we're kind of missing the point, because it is that unity and it is that love and authenticity of character. Because they did the experiment, didn't they, recently, a scientific experiment which measured what the highest frequency was. And if you ask what's the highest frequency to attain, what is it, most people, and I would have said, it's got to be love, right? Because of course love is beautiful, but it was actually authenticity. So to be authentic in what you say, to be authentic in right action, and that's what we're seeing out there, isn't it? Never before has it ever been so important to be authentic, to stand up, and no matter what it costs you, speak your truth. And if somebody speaks a different kind of truth to me, but they're doing it in love and unity, I hug them. That's cool. It's not a problem. We don't have to agree to it. And that's what's kind of got to stop, really, in my opinion. Like, stop it, says Carly.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, that's it. It was, that is good, really. We're both literally singing from the same hymn sheet where it comes to, not that I want to get into religious things about hymns or anything. I had enough of that in school, getting slapped across the back of the head if you weren't singing it right. But
well, you were saying that, Peter, when we did our first interview, didn't you? You got brought up in quite a strict Catholic. Was it a boys' school? I mean, I'm a recovering Catholic, as I joke as well. But it teaches you. You see that system from the inside out, don't you? And I always sniffed a bull poo. If I'm honest, I was like, this isn't right. So I think you did grow up in a strict Catholic church kind of school, was it?
Very, very much so. I mean, it was brought up in a very strict sort of Scottish Irish family, Catholic family, and the first school that we actually went to, I think it was actually inside the church. It was called St. Wilfrid's Infant School, but it was actually inside. I've been in before, like since then, and looked at it and said, how did we fit in there? It was just so small. But it was like built on part of the church. It's all gone now. It's all completely different now. But that was where you would be for the first, I think, 3 years. You went in at 4-year-old, and then you were 3 years in there, moved up each classroom, and everybody moved up together in the same class. And then we literally walked across the, once you got that age, you moved across the road, and you went across the road, and then that was the next school was across there. And then finally, right, literally just behind that was the other schools. So it was like 3 schools in a row. That's how it actually worked. And, as you got older, you went up to up that line, And yeah, I was, well, you know, it was back in the day, back in the 60s as well. And it was absolute insanity. Like, I think, like, the way that they treated you, especially, I mean, I never had any problem with priests or anything like that. I'm none of that nonsense. That, you know, I'm just say lucky, really, if you want to call it that. But when you hear some of the stories, there was nothing like that I knew of or experienced or heard of ever, ever, ever. But the nuns were pretty handy with their fists, that's for sure. And you know, rulers and all sorts of stuff. And they used to use canes and leather whips regularly. And the first time I ever actually had, let's just call it like a punishment tool used, and it was a cat of nine tails. I didn't even know what it was. There was like this guy. He was literally senile, and he was like, you know, he actually made us all stand in a line, or like in the cloakroom. You know, where you hang your coats up. So we're like, you know, just little. It must have been about 7 or 8. And then, you know, he walks away and he comes back and he's like, "What are you all doing here?" It was like, "Well, you told us to stand here." And he went, "Well, there must have been a reason, so I'm going to belt you." And he like pulls out, I thought it was licorice, and then he unravels it, and it's like, and you know, it's just whipping us with this. He just didn't have a clue what he was doing, you know. But it didn't make it feel any better after, you know. It was pretty crazy stuff, like.
Yeah, and I think that kind of, I mean, and that's like a different kind of, that's that kind of next generation thing. I mean, we didn't kind of have that kind of corporal punishment, but yeah, certainly it was extremely regimented. And I mean, the Pope says, doesn't he, give me a child to the age of 7 and I'll give you a minion, basically. And we know that up to the age of 7 is when you are then declared lost at sea in trust terms, doesn't it? And you know, this idea of Christianity or the Catholic Church, it's absolutely been inverted and perverted. And I always remember when, obviously, you know, when you're going into church and everybody's queued up and you've got to turn the wafer into the blood, the wafer into the body of Christ, sorry, and then the blood into the wine into the blood. And we're all, you know, you're taught to chant it, and we know the power of intent. And it even says in scripture, you know, do not drink of the blood or eat of the flesh. So it's the first thing they get us to do. So it's this inversion and this ritual that we're being involved in with this Roman Catholic Church. And the clues in the title, it's Rome. It's a Roman civil system. And I always just used to think, wow, this is weird. And then obviously as I got older and especially now, I understand what's kind of going on there. You know, the word church itself comes from the word Circe. She was a Roman goddess who led people into her temple to brainwash them. And as I say, if Christianity was correct or Catholicism, then they wouldn't let us do it. Now there's a pure form of Christianity, because Roman Christianity, the Roman civil system, an annuity is an annuity, it's a tax system. Now that's why they offer us salvation, because really that's what the legal fiction is being, that's what's happening to us. We're being salvaged, aren't we? Because, you know, we know we're classed as bona vacantia or vacant goods. So that's where that word comes from. You know, they'll offer salvation. And it's like voting. If it made a difference, you know, they wouldn't let you do it. And it goes back to, you know, to Rome. And then we've got to ask who Rome are. And that, you know, again, if you want to kind of deep dive this, we're deep diving it at the moment on the podcast. This is the Tuatha De Danann. This is why we get Lundan from Ludan, King Lu or Lucifer. And it goes back to Canaan. And Canaan, that's where you get a nun from, Canaan. It's just like, once you kind of decode, like, say, all the symbols, that's why they wear the black and white, the priests, you know, the nuns, it's that checkerboard of duality. And it just, the whole thing begins to unravel. Now, I don't want to upset any Christians, because to be a follower of the Christ, now I think the Christ is a consciousness to attain, but that's just me. And if you disagree, that's cool too. You know, neither can be right or wrong, I suppose. But, you know, it even says in scripture, and scripture is your script, for the kingdom is within. But unfortunately, Peter, at the moment, we're in the kingdom. Like, we've been dumbed down. And the kingdom is what we need to attain, because firmament, you know, if we're talking about, you know, the mention of firmament in scripture, or firm means stubborn, and ament means idiot. So firmament literally translates as stubborn idiot. And I believe that, you know, it is the limitations of our own mind, really, that it is what we kind of have to ascend to. And it goes back to the idea of frequency, like we were saying earlier. Everything is frequency. So they're trying to keep our frequencies low, and we've got to, you know, keep our frequency high. And that's whether we do that as an individual journey on the hero's journey, or we do that as a collective. And there's a huge kind of timeline shift. Who knows? I mean, but we don't know. That's the other fun part to remember. And it's becoming discerning and having wisdom in that, but also, yeah, absolutely empowering yourself with the law, empowering yourself with being healthy and keeping happy and high. That's how we win in unity, love, happiness, all these. And it sounds cheesy, doesn't it? But it literally is scientifically true, man. Trust the science.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, you got to try. You do sort of like think, well, I don't want to say too many things that are like sound so cheesy and corny or whatever it would be. But I say it myself though all the time. You've got to make sure you keep your own vibration high and try and get others to lift their vibration, because once you're lifting that vibration, they're going to eventually find it impossible to keep us down. You know, but if you got the others that trying to lower the vibration, and that just makes you think, like, why are you trying to talk that way and lower the vibration? You know, you to me seem like you're doing that to help them, therefore you must be on their side, whoever they are, you know. But going back to the Roman part, and that was like something that always puzzled me, and I always ask questions, like going through like childhood and the school and everything, say, well, hang on, right, how comes that we are like a Scottish family and we're all calling ourselves Romans? I don't live in Rome, I've never been to Rome, you know, like how am I a Roman Catholic? What does that mean? You know, and it's just like, that's just the way it is. Oh, okay. You know, so
I know, and we've kind of all just blindly followed it because of, you know, it is a mass hypnosis out there, isn't it? It's an absolute MK mind control, but on this huge scale. You know, we talk about, you know, Zombieland. You're right. You know, we're in it, and you know, we speak the language of the dead. They're telling us all this dead cursive like nonsense and keeping us in these constructs, and this idea of frequency. It's like if somebody around you is talking negatively or being negative, you know, then the clue's there in it. You know, there's the energy of it. For you shall know them by their fruits. So if somebody's behaving like that, then you've got to kind of suggest it says something deeper to the character, and you don't really need to look kind of further than that. And it is about trusting our guts and using our discernment, because what we've been told is to not trust ourselves, to not listen to ourselves, to listen to authority, to listen to the men in the white coats, the doctors, and you know, and these are Rockefeller trained, you know, kind of, you know, no offense to doctors, because there are some that do some amazing work, and the people that are kind of speaking out in those arenas, you know, it's such powerful stuff. But the veil's kind of lifting, isn't it? And we've been, you know, just under this illusion, and we've been taught it at school. So these doctors, these vets, whomever these people in authority, you know, that it's dangerous to a degree because they believe it, because that's what they've been told. And we've been brainwashed from primary school, college, university, and they make sure that these characters go through that kind of education, because then you're in it. Yeah, the system wants its minions. It's like me at law school, you know, I'm LLB honors, but I saw through it. So I came out with the law degree, but it certainly wasn't something I wanted to practice. And then I went to go be a journalist, and I saw through that. So the people that don't see through it, you know, they've got a degree, right? They've got an award, a certificate, a nice shiny piece of paper saying they know stuff. And what is an award? You know, when you're born, you put on a ward, then you become a ward of the state, then you're a ward of the court. That's what an award is, and that's why they give awards to proles and plebs and pursers and serfs, you know, because you're perpetuating that deep programming and brainwashing that we've all been subjected to. And as I say, if you were at school doodling on your pencil case or spent more time in the corridor like I did, then you know that it wasn't washing on you, was it? It didn't work. So well done you, you know. And then we've got to untie all these knots. You know, they're trying to destroy the family unit, pitting men and women against each other, and again to keep us all in these low frequencies. You know, low frequency food, sex sells, all this nonsense that we've got to deprogram ourselves from. And that for me is what a demon is. a demon is a daemon, Daemon, which is a computer program that runs in the background in a computer that is kind of running a program that you're unaware of. And it's so important to, kind of purify your vessel, not in a kind of airy-fairy way, but that's what, rejig your neural pathways. And that's the inner work, because again, the kingdom, the limitations of your own mind is what we put on ourselves, really, but as well as undoing all the programming at the same time. No easy feat, like it's not easy.
No, absolutely not. And the thing is, like what you've just said there, you go through the school system where I remember going, like when I moved from that little infant school, I could only remember little bits about it, like with it, that was the one that was inside of the church, and they put you through these rituals there as well. It's like, you do your first communion, and you do these things and they rub ashes on your head. I can't remember what it was all for, but I always found it very creepy. And it was like, you're always taught basically, and I very forcefully when I was a kid, if you don't do this properly, you're going to burn in hell for eternity. And that's all I ever had is like, I'm just going to sit there in a fire and that's all I'm going to do. And it's like, and then if that's true, then I'm definitely going there, because I got nothing but trouble all the way through to school. And like, bad stuff happened and I ended up going the wrong way, and just that was it. Once I was, and things put you in a position, I mean, I don't want to go down too much of it there, but I mean, if when I look back at my childhood and I can actually see, like, everything that happened, you could literally say what I did because of it, and ended up in quite a lot of trouble and all sorts. And that was a reaction. That was like literally like a PTSD, But like, and I'm not making any excuse for anything that I did at all. I'm certainly no angel, and I've proved it many a time. But a lot of it is just the reactions of everything that happened all around as well. And just bad stuff happened to me, so you react to it as well. But when you're talking about like frequency, everything's a frequency, and you get attacked by frequencies as well. But I was reading this report, and then the report went on to a video, and I was watching the video, and it was like really interesting, and it was talking about like bird song and how the dawn, it's the dawn chorus they call it, isn't it? It's the birds like singing in the morning that generally wake you up, and we're quite rural here, so we get a lot of it. And this guy was saying it's not just because they're saying, oh, everyone has to get up because it's light. The frequency of the sound is set at such the tone, this frequency actually reacts with all of the plant life. And a lot of these plants have these ducts underneath the leaves, on the bottom of the leaves. So what they do, this frequency actually manages to put the same frequency into the leaf so that it will lift up, open up these ducts under there so that they can actually absorb the first light of the day. And that's how they actually nourish themselves and grow. So that's what the birds are actually doing. They're actually connecting and communicating with the plants through frequency. So I thought that was amazing. I mean, and that's scientific. It wasn't just somebody sitting there looking It was like they did all these tests and went, oh, look, this is what's happening. So frequency, they try and deny it even when they're proving it.
Well, and that's it. And there's a big difference, as Johnny would say on our podcast, between science and dollar science, the science with the dollar S on the front of it. And we're beginning to all understand this, but I genuinely think all the answers are within us. And like you said with the leaves, that's absolutely bang on, because like Mark Passio says, who's an ex-Satanist, head of a satanic church or whatever he was, he says, if in doubt, look to nature. We've been taught again to listen to authority, and against our own senses, against what we see in front of our faces, against our own gut instincts, haven't we? Because we've been programmed that way. And like I say, we've this idea of this place as a hijack, and that they're falsifying our history, and they're falsifying the timelines of that history, so that we're looking over there and giving that attention and energy, instead of actually, you know, decoding, untying, pulling the proverbial threads of what we can actually see in front of our faces. I mean, we've just had an amazing guest on series 2 of Dark Matters, and it's how, you know, astrology, because I've been quite heavily into astrotheology, because that's what I believe scripture is. It's a code. There's a great guy called Bill Donahue who decodes scripture, and he was a priest or pastor for, you know, 30 odd years, and it's a code for the adept. It's not meant to be read literally, so it's anatomical and astrotheological, as above so below, as within so without, and that actually the zodiac, the constellations actually fit into our land quite perfectly, quite neatly. And for example, you know, Ra is the sun, and on the Sistine Chapel, where, you know, the first Adam is trying to touch God, we all know the famous painting. It's actually the inside of a brain. I've actually got the image tattooed on my hand there. Weirdly, I've kind of tattoo the answers to the nature of existence on myself, kind of, whether that's my higher self kind of channeling it down, or something going, wake up. So it's the hypothalamus in the brain, the land of milk and honey, we know, is our pineal gland, and the pituitary gland, and it is this connection to source that they've been trying to remove. That's what corona is, beep that out. Because corona means crown and virus means poison. It's crown poison. They want to cut us off from source. They want to invert everything. But again, like you said, Peter, who are they? Who are them? And that's what we deep dive on the podcast. Come and find out who they and them are. Because this goes back to Canaanites of old. This goes back to our myths and legends. But we're taking them back now. We're beginning to retell them. You know, this RB1 gene of the White Walkers, or the land of the giants, it originated here. That's what England means, Albion. It means land of the giants. And we're standing on them. We're literally standing on petrified titans. I mean, this stuff blows my mind, and it may be a little bit niche. It might be a bit too much for some people. Some people might, say, you're all full of shit. And that's fine too. So I don't say that it's right. We just present it. But I think we are a species with amnesia. And I think we've also got this collective PTSD. I think you're right. I think I know I have to a degree, even in like, you know, personal relationships, because men and women have lost the ability in some way to communicate with each other. We've all been taught the wrong things, and purposefully, you know, so for good and ill, really. But we always have a choice, I think. And we're always being presented with choices, and like Maximus in Gladiator, you know, what we do here echoes in eternity. You know, it is about kind of trying our best to just, you know, take the right action, or not. If you want to be dark as Fook, you know, go do that, and do that to your best of your ability. But in this realm, whatever this realm is, I think that's all that we can do, and just be the observer whilst not being apathetic and kind of standing our ground in it as well. It's a battle. And he who leaves the battlefield first loses by default, commercial maxim. Because that battle, isn't it, Peter, with the legal system that we take on, you know, again, reflects the battles within our own psyches and souls. I always say the journey of the law is the journey of the spirit, and the journey of the spirit is the journey of the law. They are so intertwined, it's untrue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned before the term, because we use that a lot, like when I'm doing like sales talks and teaching people about sales, like the hero's journey, and showing people how you can take them through their own hero's journey, because this is really a different type of hero's journey to what I would normally teach about, like, you know, the actual sales process that you go through, you know, because now the first part of the hero's journey, get really in depth now, is like it's got to start from inside of you, though, you know, and then once you can actually start to investigate your own little self and what you've got to look outside. What I always had a massive struggle with was because I felt all the time that I was getting crushed by everybody around me, like and I don't mean in a bad way, because they were literally repeating what they had been told through this Catholic upbringing, right? So it's like, you know, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you're not allowed. I remember like once coming back from school once, I said, I got taught about some I'd never heard of before, like evolution, you know, like, so they will come from this. And they went, no, no, that doesn't happen, you know, and you have to read the Bible. Like, oh wow, oh okay, you know, and like when, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. Everybody's got their own thoughts, you know what I mean? It was what it was. We spent a lot of time kneeling down, saying prayers and repeating these. I'm trying to think of what they were called. It was something like catechisms or something like that, and you had to repeat them and repeat them and repeat them. And I can't even remember what it was about. Like, you know, who do you love? I love God, or something like that. And it went on for hours, or felt like hours. I think it was hours, you know. And it was just like everything was all about 100% control, and don't think outside of this little box, right? You are a Roman Catholic. Then you will go to a Roman Catholic school. You will sit at these little pews. And then, you know, I mean, I detested, you know, all these little kids are looking forward to Christmas. I hated it. Oh my God, I'm going hours like on my knees, like praying and going following these people around the church with a big cross where he's got himself pinned onto, you know. And Easter, just the same. Everyone's going, oh yeah, Easter eggs. I'm thinking, oh, bloody hell, here we go again. It's like, you know, and I'm crawling around on my knees, you know, like these pictures up on the walls in a church, freezing cold church as well, by the way, you know. Nothing like they're always wanting more money to fix the heating or fix the roof or whatever it was. It was never nice places, you know.
Oh God, I'm feeling you with that one. Or more guns, as we know now, don't we, Peter? You know, because that's what the Catholic Church is. I remember saying to my nana about that. I mean, my nana Muslim, you know, but she basically was, and I told her that, you know, the Catholic Church buys arms and stuff. She went, oh, I know, yeah, but you know, it's this inability to kind of get like past that indoctrination, I suppose, and that's what we're all having to do, and that is a test in itself. You know, again, when we kind of take scripture literally, then, you know, it's we're a little bit lost. But again, that's just like how I view it. Some people don't, but you know what, if you're doing it again in love and unity, then I'm all for you, you know, brilliant, and I'm in full support. We don't have to agree, we can agree to disagree. But I see, you know, like the cross itself is a folded cube, and again, so it points to Saturn. And I went to Sacred Heart Catholic primary school, and you know, the Sacred Heart itself, the shape of the Sacred Heart with Jesus, and there's no such thing as Jesus because J is Latinized, so that's only been around for 500 years. There was Esus, the sun god, or Zeus, which is Jupiter, and Jupiter, Peter is the stone. Peter means stone, as you'll know, Peter, and it is the stone, the debt around our neck that is collected by Rome. So again, it all kind of ties in. But the cross represents man trapped in matter, or man as matter. And again, it goes to Saturn worship. The shape of the Sacred Heart, or half of the Sacred Heart, with Jesus doing kind of almost like a Baphomet hand sign on it, is, when you put them two together, it's the sigil or symbol for Saturn. Saturn rules, it rules control. Saturn rules matter. Saturn rules time, which is why the judge wears the Saturnian robes, because it's to do with authorities. It's with, you know, to do with control. And it's not what we say, it's what we do, is it? So people who are saying that this is the best for you, but the you know, the outcomes are negative and controlling, like, you know, like figures of authority, then, you know, again, you shall know them by their fruits. We've got to start decoding all that stuff and moving away from it. But it is, for me, astrotheological and anatomical, and it all points to the heavens. You know, if you're going to go to heaven, you know, then the heavens are the wanderers, are these archetypes and the planets, without getting into like flat earth, round earth, because I'm not going there. But, you know, this is what we're starting to bring back, this old ancient knowledge. And this is certainly what we deep dive at Dark Matters, alongside having all the practical resources. But I call it a resource platform. It is there to kind of resource people back to their true self. And this idea of if we, like you say, with the rituals, with Christmas, and I did a decode on Christmas, and it certainly isn't what people think it is. Same with Easter, is Ishtar. Even the 4th of July that's coming up now, you know, it's all serious worship, and which is, you know, not Saturn.
Time for a good election then.
Yeah, exactly. And again, like we said, you know, if voting changed anything, they would not let you do it. Voting comes from the Latin to vote. which is and that's why you go to the poles, because it's positive and negative. You know, it's an energy harvest of epic proportions, and the goal of these people is to keep us trapped in matter, to keep us trapped in time, because then, you know, we're not having the spirit ascend over this construct, basically, and that is that ascension of spirit. So even the pentagram, you know, we are the man or woman in the Vitruvian box. That's why you get you know, have you seen these music stadiums now? They're all being created in the shape of black boxes, black cubes. Because again, a cube, anything with a 90-degree angle in feng shui, keeps in energy. So it's about, they're just huge, massive energy harvests. But again, it's representing this fact that they are condensing our energy via time into matter. So for us to transcend that, the pentagram, you know, the right way up is spirit over matter. Inverted, it's matter over spirit, which is why, you know, they like to use that as a bit of a, ooh, stay away from this, you know, this is a satanic symbol, blah, blah, blah. But it's not really, it's just a symbol. You know, it's like anything, it's like being a Jedi. If you're going to use the force is just the force. You can use it for good or you can use it for ill. You can be a Jedi or you can be a Sith. And Jedi, without rambling on too much, comes from the old priests that were called the Jediah. And they used frequency, funnily enough. It goes back to that. They use words because words have frequency, because we know that with cymatics, and low frequency cymatics creates a hex. There's a hex on Saturn, a hexagon on Saturn, and that's what low frequency cymatics creates. So it's all in their symbols, it's all in their codes, and it's all in their languages, and it is all to do with frequency, which is why they removed the bells from churches, because they were healing centers and temples, and our true history hidden from us. And I haven't got to, you know, we haven't got time here to deep dive all the stuff we do on the podcast, but seriously, come and have a toot at us, even if you decide that we're talking bananas. But this is the we're uncovering it.
Just to make sure that we'll go over that then, so because hopefully a lot of people do know what you're talking about. But when you're saying like dark matters, right, obviously that's your platform, but it's not just a platform, it's like a multitude of things. So let's just go over that a little bit, so like let everybody know, you know, exactly what it is, and then how they can go and have a check out and listen to more of, like, you know, these deep dives, and you know, get themselves more knowledge of what's going on.
Yeah, it's like I say, I called out Matt as a resource platform. It's free to join us, it's free membership, and we kind of, anything that I think is of worth to remove souls from, you know, the matrix, to checkmate the matrix, as you'd say. So we have, it's all educational, so we're not there to give legal or financial advice. That said, you know, we talk about crypto, we do free lives, so you can come and learn about crypto. Bit controversial, but you know, it's always for the individual or sovereign mind to make up their own mind. You know, I'm not there to tell you this is right or wrong. You know, it's kind of a bit of a cookie cutter kind of extravaganza in dark matters. Take what resonates with you and leave the rest. So we do law legal, we do debt free education. The sovereign projects in there, Pete Stone. We've got Trina from Direct Private Trust if you want to learn more about, you know, asset protection and trust management. There's trust courses in there. We do things from organic food to breath work to live events, festivals, inner child work with Kane Strongberg. There's loads in there, and we like I say, we do these free lives. You can come on free lives with me where I talk this kind of bananas, because if you just listened to my last rant and thought, what the hell is that woman going on about? It's a lot to take in, but come in and take your time, you know, if you want to just find out a bit more about it. It's like what I say, Peter, we are quite niche in a way. We are practical and we offer remedy in that sense. And the remedy really is about rewiring your own mind more than anything. And because really, as we know, that mindset is what's key to this, let's call it this game of Monopoly, really. So this awareness and education and this empowerment of people is the angle I kind of come at, you know, from a passionate standpoint, really, and that's how it got created. And there's a forum in there so members can talk and communicate with each other. It's like but it's a private network, and we can say what we like in there, you know, within reason. Everyone's respectful, but you know, we can all agree to disagree at points, and it's just about keeping connected, and it's about networking in. I run a debt course from there, so you know, kind of like a be debt free course, but that's a bit like what you do, Peter, with unsecured debt. Because obviously that's kind of once we pick the bones apart of that, and we can kind of keep it to quite basic points. I kind of hopefully, you know, illuminate the way for people to be able to, you know, let's say relieve themselves from those shackles. And the course I'm doing actually starts this Friday, and I'm going to be recording myself going through all the information in real time. Basically, what I think, if I am good at anything in relation to debt, is taking a lot of complex information and turning it into a meme. And we talk about DSAR, data protection, and all the juicy stuff of how we can wrap them up with their own bullshit, basically, as you well know, Peter. So that starts this Friday, but again, the Zooms will be recorded and put in the space, so you can join the debt course at any time. It's there to join, and it's half price actually at the moment, because that's the only thing that we do kind of ask for a donation for, that some of the courses, which actually then helps to keep the network, you know, paid for, tick over, and hopefully we're running the directory as well. So it's just a really cool place alongside the podcast where people can kind of come and interact and connect. And it's kind of going from strength to strength, so I'm really chuffed with it. I'm going to do like a big interview run hopefully this summer and get promoting it, and just hopefully it can be a safe space where, if you trust me, the big word in there is trust. If you kind of trust me, then come and trust our space holders, and the space holders in there. I mean, I've been so humbled by them. They are experts, for want of a better word, in their own, you know, fields. And yeah, I go on the Zooms and I learn so much. Like Nikki from K9 Angel, we just did an interview with, and exposing the toxic pet food industry, because that's huge. Yeah, it's like I would taught how to trust the doctors. Well, we trust the guys and the vets, don't we, in the white coats, but we know it's all an industry. We know it's about harmer is farmer, and same for our beloved furry companions. So we do all that for free, all the, you know, the YouTubes for free. But if people can kind of support us and they want to learn more and they want to like donate to one of the courses, then it's a good equitable energy exchange. But everything else is just, it's free to join. Come and find us.
The good thing is as well is, like, on the forum side, you know, like that it's a private forum. So say you just said a little bit like Facebook but private. So we actually have the same. So we've got a forum, and people can put posts up, and then they can answer each other and share comments and even chat with each other. But right, the good thing is it is completely private, so you're not going to get some psychotic, like, you know, lunatic coming in for, and you get them on Facebook, you know, you just like get some like comments coming on thinking, where did that come from and what are you talking about, like attacking you for no reason. So you won't get that because it's private, the same as we've got the same. But also then there's no fact checkers on there either, so then you're going to get banned for like saying a lot of what you've just said. You know,
exactly. And it's important, isn't it, as things are moving, you know, when they're bringing in all these new bills and acts. And what's a bill? You know, it's something that you pay, isn't it? And that's what it's all about, the system. It's an energy harvest, it's an energy of your time, and it's an energy of your sweat equity, basically, as we know. So again, but being able to speak freely on a private forum, and moving forward from the private, and again, like empowering people to move from the private, but to be able to use the public element, you know, with affidavits and using that court system to give what we say the process teeth in it, Peter, and learning that how to do that. Like I say, we're not going to do it for you, because the thing is, if you're going to do it for somebody, they're not you're not creating that neural pathway in your head. You know, it's I call it a 42 syndrome. If you're, you know, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, when they all gather around the supercomputer, so the whole multiverse comes to find out what the answer to the meaning of life, the universe, and everything is, and then the quantum computer goes, the answer to the meaning of life, the universe, and everything is 42, and they all go, huh? But 42, and nobody gets it, but they don't get it because they've never asked the question. So you're not going to understand the answer if you haven't first asked the question, and it's the question that drives us. So if you ask the question of how, understanding the why is what we can kind of help you with. You know, it's a symbiotic relationship. But when you do it for yourself, because if I did something for you, then if I kind of jump myself off a cliff, when it comes back at you, are you going to be able to do it? You know, and we can all help each other in community, of course, like, because I don't know how to grow carrots, and I should be better at it. You know, unity makes the community, or putting the, you know, and all that. But so we can aid and assist each other, but it is about empowering ourselves and rewiring our brains, and having the skills and tool sets as a community, but also on an individual basis as well. So that's kind of the motto with us. But we are there, like you say, with the forums to ask questions. I'm in there every day. You know, if you like me or not, you know, if you don't turn me off, I'm all right with that. But you can come and chat with us, and all our members are great. They all aid and assist each other, and it's a really nice energy in there, away from the trolls and the fact checkers.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, that's it. Exactly. You know, get away from the trolls. Let them hide under the bridges. Keep them there. You know, but the whole thing is, though, isn't it? It's about, when you're saying just it's the template thing, isn't it? When a lot of people that come on to, I mean, I've still got a Facebook group. I don't go on often. I try to keep going with it because there are people on it, you know, and they all say, well, have you got a template? You know, straight away, like, you know, I've got this problem. Can anyone help me? And this is that you give them a little bit. Yeah. But have you got a template? You know, and it's like, it's pointless really, because like that template's only going to work for a tiny little thing. And then there's going to be a stage 2 and a stage 3, because they, you know, for instance, on the debt, you know, they don't go, oh, sorry, we made a mistake. We'll not do that again. You know, they lie. So they come back at you. So you've got to know how to do it. So either you're going to give the man a fish, he's going to eat for a day, or you teach them to fish, and then they can do it themselves for as long as they need to. And that's really what I think Dark Matters is about, because you not only can you all discuss it within the forums and everything like that, but right, there are the actual, I always call them, rather than a course, a knowledge share, you know. So there's a knowledge share, and everyone shares the knowledge, and then, you know, they can develop it themselves, and then they are able to, well, do it themselves, but then pass it on to others as well. You know, have family and friends that need help. So then everybody can start helping each other, and it's education and educating going down the actual family line. That's what it should be.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. You know, the old fish, you know, give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, teach him how to fish, he'll feed himself for a lifetime. It's exactly that. And, you know, I always say pick one thing and do it well. And at one point I was doing parking, you know, and I bogged my own head. So I picked debt because I've got successes in it, and I can, you know, hopefully, you know, show people knowledge how to do that, because a lot of it, what people don't understand is about the jurisdictions, and also about, you know, being able to pick out claims, isn't it? Because we know that they, you know, especially with debt, they're selling data. They're not selling debt, because debt's a fiction. So just getting key points and basic principles, and keep it simple, stupid for people. I remember my early notices, Peter, were like 30 pages long, you know, and in the end I was just like, keep it simple. You know, we can get them on key points that they're not going to be able to wriggle out of, and keep it to that. And that's what I try and do in the debt course. And obviously give people the ability to ask things in real time, but keep it simple. There's a lot of information on the course, and that's doing your due diligence and your homework. But, you know, to be able to kind of come on these Zooms and with our members, with me, and we just go through it. And like I say, if you can't make the course on the day, the videos are recorded and they'll go in the space anyway. But, you know, it helps everybody. It keeps us ticking over, and it's just like I say, it's just getting it out there for me. And I know, like, you do a very similar thing to me as well, Peter, and that's brilliant. So, you know, we all just keep working together and just keep getting that information. I know you had Richie from the Goodism, who were great friends of mine. Again, you know, I support them to the hilt, because they're such pure-hearted guys, and they're doing it for the right reasons, and they do some amazing stuff. And Andy Truman's absolutely on another level with his knowledge, and he's at the moment actually helping a lot of farmers remove their farms out of obviously legal jurisdiction and whatnot. And again, we do free lives on trust law, just to get, just so people can get to, start empowering themselves with the basics and how it works. And if we all just keep working together, then I genuinely believe that the game is ours. Like in scripture, guess what? We win. But it's going to perhaps be a little bit of a bumpy game before we get to that point, which is again why it's so important to keep our heads clear and our bodies strong, which is the one that I'm on at the moment. I've been terrible being on the road for the last 4 years on and off, like self-care and whatnot. But yeah, if ever there was a time, it's now, innit? So we've all just got to kind of keep healing thyself. That's what being healthy is. Heal thyself, know thyself. You get those two right, and we're pretty much there, I think. They've made us forget who we are.
But yeah, talking about Richie, I mean, that to me is like it shows the way by the result that he had. And I mean, he wasn't just talking to me; he was talking to a few other people. So I'm not trying to say I've got the credit for that or anything. Absolutely not. I've known him for a few years, and we went backwards and forwards, and he had this issue with PRA, and he was just bang up for it. He's like, I want to fight these. He's done lots of other stuff himself and just got rid of debt his way, no problem. He didn't care when he was younger, so he's got that in him. But we're sort of like, he used the CPR, the civil procedure rules, and I'd shown him my little bit. Someone else had shown them their little bit. Then would have gone in and we're talking about GDPR, because they lie all the time. These debt collectors and PRA group, they're one of the worst. They're about, and they seem to hang on as if like literally you've went into the granny's purse and stole the granny's money, right? Or the nana's money or whatever. And but that result there shows people, because I still don't think everybody got it. And they will say, well, where's the proof? But I'm like, what on earth are you talking about? This was a court case, right? Instead of us trying to take them to court, right? He wanted them to take him to court. So he got into the court. Well, he didn't. That's the whole point. He was getting ready to go to the court. He put in the whole defense, got all the CPR paperwork, but he knew what he was talking about. He was ready to talk about it. He was ready to fight his corner in the court by saying, this is this, this is this, this is this. But if you do it correctly, then using their rules, right? Laws, if you want to call them laws, but using their rules, the PRA group, in the end, they didn't even turn up, and because they haven't got the evidence, they don't have the paperwork to back it up, so they just kiss it goodbye, but they will not give up, right? Because what they expect is you're going to bottle it and you're going to pay before the court date comes, and that's how they win most of it. It's fear. It's the fear base that they've put onto people, like the TV, tell lies to your vision, don't pay, we take it away, and all that nonsense. And it's just everything's about debt and everything's about worry and stress and everything. But that was showing you the way. If you know the system, and then you do the correct paperwork for the correct system, you will get the correct result, which is to beat them at their own game. And there was getting Richie on to go through it was brilliant. So, and that's really, it's the same as what you're showing, the same as what I'm showing. And it's putting it out there for people, helping them get this knowledge, instead of, they should be listening to stuff like this, or going on to Dark Matters, getting on to Checkmate the Matrix, rather than sitting watching Tell Lies to Your Vision and stuff like, I don't know, EastEnders still on, or stuff like that. Coronation Street, I bet they are, but it's just mind-numbingly depressing crap. You know what I mean?
Well, I even say I think the new Coronation Street is the truther movement. It's almost like it's thriving on division and drama to a degree, and people do like the fear porn. We're kind of programmed to it, aren't we? People do like the drama. People like the arguing. People like people going, I'm going to call that person out. It's just that, and I'm like, okay, that'd be a no from me then, from going over there. But yeah, absolutely, and it is fear how they do it. And PRA are one of the worst. I mean, some of the stuff they send you is hilarious. But again, if you don't know how to pick out claim, if you don't know, through the smoke and mirrors, the obfuscation in these correspondences, in these letters to try and contract with you, and that's ultimately all that they are, then you're gonna panic. You're gonna be like a bit of a deer in the headlights. So that's like you do, like Richie did. It's breaking it down, and like you do, it can be broken down to a few simple key memes and points, and yeah, it's kind of complex, but it's always paradoxically not when you have the tools to cut through the bullshit. And that's the kind of skill set and tool set that I want to try and kind of get across over on the course. PRA are just hilarious. But again, when we turn the tables around on them, like you say, civil procedural rules, the understanding of how important data is, because data, it will be, in a digital world, which is what they're trying to do. And this idea of our data, you see, and again, I go through this, and again, it links in with BSV and the original Bitcoin, because we can take our intellectual property back. They're actually using our data, these corporations, and they are making a killing because we are in their jurisdiction, we are in their system, and we hand our data over. So we use data to dispel the debt slavery element of these debt collectors and unsecured debt, and we can do that. But also on a bigger understanding of what and how important data is, when we start to take that back, just as an example, Amazon earn more from our data and selling our data on and the use of our data that we hand over willingly or in our ignorance than they do their general business. Like, that's how big it is. And when we're starting to understand this and to use data to our advantage, to reveal concealment in loan agreements, because obviously we know they never loaned us anything in the first place, to understand securitization, but also to just get rid of parasites like debt collectors who only bought the data and not the debt. Now, what there is a breach of data, and the breach of data is a breach of trust, and a breach of trust law is one of the highest breaches of trust. So we can go after them, and they get fined, I think, is it 4%, Peter, of their annual gross domestic product. It's a huge tool to bring these motherfuckers down, and when we can begin to start to understand the power of a SAR request, of freedom of information, because they're all operating in fraud. And it's like what the Baron said, it's not fraud if we join in, really, in our ignorance. Ignorance is no defense, yeah. But if we can start to go, speaking, English language, and define our definitions, pick out claims, pick out the frauds on these documents, like the Baron used to say, the late great Baron David Ward, read the fucking files and nothing's ever signed. Nothing's ever signed. And this is, these kind of key tools. You need an executed deed of assignment. Well, nothing's ever signed, and they're basically just ringing up Bob from PRA. Barclaycard are ringing Bob and saying, "Hey Bob, here's Carly's data. There you go. Will you go and sort that out for us?" And that's what we get them on, isn't it? Basically, and that's a breach of data. There's no deed of assignment, no excuses, and the beat goes on. So again, keep it to some key points. Understand the importance of data in a digital world, because that's the commodity, and actually that we can take that back and start to keep that asset for ourselves, because it actually has value, you see. Whereas everything else, like fiat, fake currency, isn't backed by any kind of value. So we're beginning to start to create a new systems for the people by the people again, you see, and they don't want that. And if you're interested more on that information, because that's a lot of information perhaps to take in, again, join our YouTube channel and watch the videos with Dolores Cahill and Toshi, where we talk about this in more detail, because it's banking, isn't it, Peter? So when we understand banking and basic economics, then the whole castle on sand begins to fall down. And that's, be the banker, as I say, learn the game.
And the reason, I mean, like, if you look at it as well, like the whole thing and how you can actually fight them, the debt collectors, it's, if you don't, the thing is, you don't know what you don't know. Okay. So I'm not like, saying anybody's not clever for not knowing, but you have to actually find out. But data is the new gold. I mean, data is probably more valuable than gold. They sell more, like you just said it, they sell more data than they do the, that's how they make the real money rather than like the normal business. But data concealment can be seen as a criminal offense. Now, I know we're talking about criminal offense, but rather than a crime, but we're dealing with them now. So if we're actually stepping into their world, we have to talk like them and deal with them. So what they're saying, this is what the great thing, I love it, is they go, oh, we've purchased your debt. Oh, fantastic. So you must have a receipt then, and so exactly, they're alleging that. So they're claiming that they've actually got, in reality, their claim is, I have a legally executed deed of assignment. That's what they're saying without saying it, right? We're just going to say, well, yeah, it's great, no problem. So show me the receipt. When you want to return your jeans and you think, oh, they don't fit as well as I thought, right? You can't walk back into the shop and say, here, give us me money back. They're going to go, yeah, no problem. Where's the receipt? It's the same thing. They just call theirs a deed of assignment, but you want to ask for the legally executed deed of assignment, And then they always say, oh, I don't have to show you that. Nobody, who said I have to show you that?
Yeah, they do.
It's funny. It's really funny. But again, I've just done a case there. I got the email through, was it this morning or last night? Whatever, anyway. And I've just filed for an N1. Well, I didn't actually, because they've just put it on this new one they're doing, this money claim online or something. So all you have to do is put a timeline in and send it all off. And they've just done the statutory declaration to get themselves an extra 14 days and appointed the solicitors. I'm sure this is PRA as well, and it's just the normal thing is they want to delay it as much as possible. And then what they'll do is they'll send you, because they've got to send you the evidence they're going to use. So they're going to kill another tree. They're going to send a pile of paper this big. Right, and like it's like flicking through with absolute nonsense. There's not a single interesting, valid document in there, right? And it'll come to the deed of assignment, the same as the one that they gave to Richie, the same as the one that they gave to the other guy I was dealing with, Richie, at the same time, and it's blank. There's nothing on it, and there's definitely no signatures. And there's like, it's daft the stuff they even come up with, and when they say, oh, well, we can't show you the deed of assignment because anyway, it hasn't got any of your details on. It hasn't got my details. Well, if that's the only proof that you've actually bought my debt, how comes it's not got my name on there? It was like, who's this then? It's just, it doesn't make sense. But this is what they try and fob you off with.
It's kind of, it becomes comical, doesn't it, when you know what to do, you know what to look for, and you know what to action, and therein lies that empowerment. It's actually on the ICO's website. The processor must only act on the controller's documented instructions. It's on their own websites, so we don't, it's not like we have to be that clever, really. Like you say, just understanding some basics of civil procedural rules, 1831, the inspection of documents, they haven't got them, and they're making claims. I mean, it's hilarious, isn't it? They'll say, there you go, there's the notice of assignment, but it's just a piece of paper that says notice of assignment, and the beat goes on, as we know. And another little key one that I tend to use is a Section 78 notice, because if a debt company or any kind of company is saying that they're running an account on you, then under the Consumer Credit Act, I think it's 1978, don't quote me, but then you can send a Section 78 notice, and they have to send you a signed statement. And of course, no one ever wants to sign anything, because then that's liability, and liability meaning the ability to be lied to. Well, that's why corporate entities, dead speak entities, exist, companies, because so living men and women can hide behind the name of it, because they don't want to take liability. I mean, I just sent an affidavit, a beautiful affidavit, to PRA, a few months back, and not heard a peep. Because what they're going to do, an affidavit, commercial maxim stands as truth in commerce. The power of an affidavit, you create your own law. So people tend to think, don't they, Peter, that the court is the courtroom. That's just a load of actors talking bananas and administrative nonsense. The court is your court of record. And that's what we show people, how to do that commercial process, follow pre-action protocols to get them to that point where we can turn the game round on them. And it ain't that pretty, So, yeah. It's all good fun, isn't it? On the
talking about court as well. There again, this is the good thing about like connections and working with everybody and sharing the knowledge, you see. So I've got like a friend that I've known, I don't know, maybe a couple of years, and he has like been very similar education, and he's done it all himself, you know, along the legal and lawful, what's the difference, finding out. And he's writing a book now, so I'm hopefully when he's finished he's going to do a podcast so we can launch his book. He's going to come on, but I don't want to say too much about it until he's nearly finished, he says. But, and this is what I was trying to say as well, and got loads of grief off, you know, where the areas it comes from, because I was point blank saying, look, you have to stand, if you have to go to court, first of all, if you do enter the court, which this is a family court he was going into, then you're going in there like on a special appearance, not a general appearance, and you're not Mr. Such and such. No, and then when they say you have a name, say, I don't have a name, you know, and it's like, you refer to me as Peter. That's all. Refer to me as Peter. I'm a man. And eventually, you know, they do get angry, they do say things, but then he was this guy, you know, he's going to write his book, and I'm not saying his name until he's ready to produce it all out there. And he said, well, you're trying to take my daughter, who is my property, you know, it's my property. So the judge is getting angry. He said, don't you dare call that your property. He says, that is my property. The judge said, well, define property. So, well, the creator is the owner, you know, and if I'm maintaining it, creating it and maintaining it, then that is my property. Is that correct, Judge? The judge is like, well, yes, that is the actual lawful definition. Got the judge to agree that, you know, in their terms, that was his property. And he said, well, you have to stop interfering with my property then.
Wow. Yeah, that's it. Boom. And it's having like you say, losing the fear, isn't it? False evidence appearing real fear, and standing ground like that, because they will railroad, and they are and they are bullies, and that's what that system's designed to do. Like you say, that our Christ or Christian names are, you know, it clues in the title. Surname, sir means no, it means no name. It's and when you do your signature, it becomes a sigil, and then you're back in jurisdiction of the legal fiction. So you've got to kind of create and remove yourself from that jurisdiction, like you say, by going as special appearance. And wow, see, that's powerful stuff, because it's a universal maxim, isn't it? He who creates owns. And what he's done there very cleverly, asking as king. So he's put the question back to the judge to keep the high position. So, and the more we all do it, and it's happening up and down the country, isn't it? As much as they want to have the fear porn and to get us, you know, forgetting into this next layer of dreaming of transhumanism and, you know, inversion of the sexes and all the nonsense, you know, AI, blah blah blah. But people are turning up at courts. People are trying to take the courts back from the bar, you know, and turn them back into public places, you know, of justice, which they should have been in the first place, instead of being run by the bar society. And the bar is the gala, and the gala were ancient Sumerian demons that dragged the dead to the underworld, you know. And even like we were saying, back to banking, if people could, I always say, just get them on banking. If we can kind of get people to understand the banking system, wow, can you imagine, you know, that huge fraud on the people, the huge asset strip of our equity of this, that we all have a share of under the creator, then, you know, it's all run under GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. And even GAAP was a demon who ruled the 66 legions of hell. So again, you know, we are in a spiritual battle, not against just flesh and blood, but principalities. And it is about, you know, just doing what that guy did, really, you know, and we've got to start standing our ground. And if I can aid in empowering people, including myself, because, you know, I've had moments where, you know, it's not easy, but straight is the gate and narrow is the way, and few there be that find it. So we've got to kind of just keep on keeping on.
But you can turn it into, like, well, if you want to call it the public court, you can take it back from them, right? And again, because he was coached on how to do it, and he was like, you know, when the judge come in, they all say rise, and he wouldn't stand up. So the judge got angry again. He said, well, you know, you're not going to show respect and stand up for me. And he said, well, you know, I'm here by special appearance, not general appearance. Am I required to stand up? And they went, well, no. Oh, okay, thank you. So
Exactly, because
why would you be required? You're
game.
not required. It's just like that's their custom, and a custom will overrule common law, even set precedent and case law. They've got it written in the book. It's got it right on here. Right, have a look at it. Burton's Legal Thesaurus, and it'll tell you in there.
Nice.
Custom overrides the common law. Right. So,
right. Yeah, wow. Yeah.
That's
I
their
didn't know that one
customs.
about
They're going to
customs.
beat you up with customs every time you try and use case
Well,
law against them.
And we go through customs at an airport, don't we? Of course, and like think of the language at an airport. You go to a terminal, you depart. The departure. It's all to do with death. It's all to do with the dead legal fiction and death. It's like we are in Hades, unfortunately, and it's time to wakey.
I know,
wow.
Isn't it?
And the more we just keep sharing this, because I didn't know that one. It's like mandate, isn't it? I always used to make the joke, like, what is a mandate? You know, a mandate is two men going out for a curry together. You know, a mandate is a contractual term. It has no power over you unless you consent. You know, it's so again, it's so important for us just to keep breaking these words down and showing people that unfortunately they do class us as the walking dead until we breathe life and spirit back into our vessel. And that's the game, my friends. And like Emilio says here in Young Guns 2, we shall finish the game, my friend. We shall finish the game. You know, so we shall.
Yeah, I love that film as well, actually. But I like the one Reap the Whirlwind. I like that part. You know?
Yeah. Oh, well, it's like Jilly the Kid, in it. It's like my inner child comes out to play. It's like, you know, regulators. And what were the regulators? They stood up against a cartel, basically, didn't they? They stood up against injustice and the tyranny of authority. So that's why I have our Billy here. You know, I mean, it's Emilio Estevez, you know, playing Billy the Kid, but for all intents and purposes, there he is.
No, but it's the good guy. I mean, you know, whatever you might have thought about the real Billy the Kid, but the whole scenario was it was the good against the evil, which is exactly what we're doing now. It's a spiritual war, 100%. It's not just about, like, you know, definitely not about just don't pay your poll tax or council tax, whatever. I'm showing the age there. You know what I mean? Or, like, you know, or get out of the debt without, you know what I mean? It's about a spiritual war, education along the way. But it's spiritual, lifting up the vibration, and it's literally good against evil, and make sure you're on the correct side of history.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. That's definitely my kind of motto. It's like you just got to kind of observe it and do as much right action as your gut and your balls or your non-balls, if you know, your top balls will you know, muster really. And like you say, it goes back to that what we do here echoes in eternity. And even say, like, just picking up practical ways to challenge things, you know, on a more practical level. Say, like with the council tax, you know, we know that it's the council issuing all the paperwork, which they have no authority to do. So again, this is where data comes in again. And DSAR, you DSAR a court, it's not on their official memorandum, it's not on their record, there's no case number. So who's issuing what here? And it's again just, you know, providing this education like what we do in Dark Matters. I went on the Richard Vobes, the Clever Clogs, and there was a guy who joined after, who was fighting his council tax. Well, we have a whole council tax section and downloadable notes to show people how they can start utilising these tools in the Freedom of Information requests and DSARs to, like say, create their own notices. They're your notices, and you can kind of adapt them at will depending on what, you know, and like I say, always goes down to certain points and prizes in the end. But yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted. But you know, that's not what, you know. I always like to say this, Peter, you know, a ship in the harbour is safe, but that's not what ships were made for, you know. And we've got to just kind of find our bravery in it, really.
It's true. And again, talking about, like, I mean, I don't get involved sort of like with showing people how to fight council tax, because there is so many, like, get onto there's so many other places to go in and get that information, you know. But it does all still boil down to data, though. That is the thing. And they're either, well, if you just ask the court there, well, show me all the data that you have on me, and they haven't got any, well, then that shows you're either concealing it, right, or there isn't any. Therefore, the actual, and then you've just proven then the council are actually in the wrong, and that's you can then attack them, and you can go and get compensation off them for not supplying you with the correct data. So don't worry about like, oh, I owe like whatever council tax. Go and sue them for 5-10 grand for concealing the data, and you will win the case. And it's the same with these debt companies as well. Like that one that I've just done, you know, they're asking for the 14 days to file their defense. When they send it, it's going to be a big pile of some poor dead tree making up nonsense, you know. So trying to pretend that they've got data.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I actually genuinely think that as well. It made me laugh when you said that, because I always think, God, how many trees do they have to chop down to provide this bullshit? It's criminal. That's criminal in and of itself. Never mind the actual nonsense they spout upon it. Like, and yeah, it is. It's absolutely laughable when you break it down in the end. And the peacekeepers are doing an amazing job, aren't they, with the council tax on the obligation side of it. And Mark Horn, you know, obviously got an estoppel in equity. So again, I tend to just send people over to the peacekeepers, but there's a huge council tax section. I did a video on the council tax where, again, you can utilize key points on the legality of it, challenge the data, and go for the data and the ICO and the concealment of that. That's the way. If I were going to do it, that's the way that I do it, but I don't pay it. So and again, just learning this stuff, learning that we never get given a true bill, because a bill can be discharged or set off. You know, that we are the beneficiaries, that we're actually paying for the metering service in relation to our utilities. Knowledge is most certainly power. And I, like Andy says from the Goodism, when we stop being a single bee and we become a swarm, it's awareness, I believe, really, in the end, that will tip it. And that's why it's the key for me is creating these safe places where people can speak out, where we can share knowledge, where that can hopefully then ricochet to that person's next door neighbour or their Auntie Joan, or, you know what I mean? And just keep at it. And really that information, again, it's data again, isn't it, Peter? That data, that information that we'll keep, you know, they want to enslave us by digital data, but there's always the other side of the coin. It can absolutely free us if we utilize it and we learn these kind of tricks and tools to be able to take it back.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the same thing, you know, data or anything like that. There's two sides to every coin. So yes, they're trying to use it to enrich themselves and sort of like enslave us, but we can turn it around and say, hang on, and we can use it against them for like the debt collection or the council tax or whatever, or even the courts. But it's the same with AI as well. You know, yes, they're trying to use it to try and enslave man. But if we use it in the way where we can actually correctly train it in a proper way, you know, because I'm training the one that I use, you know, to be like correctly using case law, feeding it, because it can only, remember, well, when I've never seen a computer, like when I was at school, didn't know anything about them, heard that there was people doing computer studies. Oh, what's that? You know, never ever seen one, didn't know anything about it. But the term that I remember them always saying is like garbage in, garbage out, you know, and that's the same with AI. When you're trying to use these chat GPT, if you don't train it properly and put the correct thing in, you're not going to get anything decent out either. But we can use it and train it to be what we want it to be as well. So there's always a positive where there's a negative. So we can turn it all around.
That's the clever part. Yeah, and that is, absolutely, that's the clever part. They do this. We find the antithesis to it, don't we? They want to enslave us with digital data. We want to free ourselves with it. And that's the bounce. That's the bloody bounce.
Yeah, and it's the same thing, you know, they're trying to enslave us with like digital currency. Well, you know, we've been investigating how to actually become completely decentralized, away from banks. We've even got people now that haven't got bank accounts. So how can they be controlled? You know, which is one of those events I was telling you about we're going to do later in the year down in Yorkshire, you know. So and part of it is how to become decentralized and not have a bank account. Well, you don't need one. So why allow them to spy on you and control you when you don't need it anymore?
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'll be there. I know we talked about it earlier. So amazing. And again, it's just us all connecting and getting these nuggets out of information, just bit by bit, bit by bit. You know, it's David and Goliath, isn't it? Really. But you know, a Jack Russell can bite the ankle of a giant, you know, and get its Achilles heel quite easily. So it is. I always say it's the fall of Rome. I mean, astrologically, apparently, and I'm no astrologist, we're in the fall of Rome. So let that beast fall, but it will go screaming and kicking. But I do believe, you know, that's what the Great Reset is. You know, they do these soft resets of history, so we forget and we're confused by our buildings and all the rest of it. But also they want this Great Reset as what we want, the Great Reveal. So as they're heading for the reset, and it is to reset time without going there. We want to keep shining the light on it and revealing it, and like it's like being a terrier on a giant's ankle, like you say. But every giant has an Achilles heel point, and we're even though we might feel like we're down here, Kitty's got teeth, Kitty's got claws, you know.
Exactly.
We just kind of keep at it.
But it's like the movie, though, isn't it? The ants, when they're getting controlled by the locusts. And then, like, one of the king locust or whatever it is says to like whoever says, "Well, why should we worry? There's way more of them than there is of us. We just don't want them to know that, you know."
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
the same thing. You know, once they realize there's millions more of them than there is of us, and they can be unified, you know, together and actually turn on them, then they're beaten. And it's the same here. You're having a handful of people controlling billions. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's absolute insanity, isn't it? And again, that's another thing that we deep dive. Who are they? Who these families are? And not just even in a flippant kind of conspiracy, you know, kind of, oh, the 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati. No, we go deeper than that, you know, and it's super interesting. But at the end of the day, it is, yeah. I really just believe that everyone needs to just keep empowering themselves and speaking out, because that's what they're trying to do, and it just shut us up. And even to the point where, you know, we've got this mass migration, and I'm quite, you know, I get more and more outspoken every day, because it's nothing to do about being a racist or transphobic or anti-gay, but this is, you know, again in scripture it says at the end of days the good will be deemed wicked, and you know, evil will be deemed as good, and that's what we're seeing, you know, this lefty woke lunatic agenda. You know, again, it's just more division, mass migration, more division, and diluting of our cultures and diluting of our true history. And they want it eradicated, because in that is strength, in that is a unity. Even if we're different cross-culturally, you know, we still can work together, you know. But to decimate our shores and to decimate the, you know, this beautiful green land, this Inga land or Ingale land, and it's about almost like our ancestors are screaming to us to kind of remember who we are. And I'm all, you know, that's what we do at Dark Matters, just decode, you know, we are the coders and the decoders, you know, and to begin to understand our strength and power in that.
Well, that's what we're here for, to try and help everybody else to waking up a little bit, if that's what you want to call it, but definitely become more aware, because that's what I like. You know, I don't want to be awake, because that's where I'm going to have some whiskey at some friend's funeral, right? What I'm going to do is I want to be aware, you know, and know what's going on. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed that. You know, I think take 2 was even better than take 1, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, definitely. See, everything happens for a reason, right? There's got to be a plan that's somewhere else. They just haven't told us all of the bits of it, you see. So now and again, they just direct us in the right way so that we can have a better result, which I think that was.
Yeah, and I think, you know, again, it's about us, isn't it? It's about us on the ground. We've been sold this victim savior template, like something's coming to save us, and nothing's coming to save us. Trump's not coming to save you. You know, it's about empowering ourselves, working together as a collective, raising the frequency and all that good stuff. And and creating the new thing. And we'll just keep on it, won't we, Peter? Like I say, there's a reason for everything, for every rhyme a reason. So it's obviously meant to have part 2.
Exactly, you know, and we just got to keep moving forward and lifting up the frequency and the vibration so that we can continue, and then it will infect others. You know, it's your attitude is more infectious than anything that you can ever believe, and it's either a positive or negative, and it's it. Positive attitude is just as infectious as a negative attitude, you know, and you choose which one you want to have, and you feel it within And if you're going around, I mean, how many times have you walked into a building and thought, I don't like this, I don't want to be here, I'm leaving? And it's just, you don't know why. Yeah, you couldn't, like you just say, you don't feel good, you don't feel right in there, you know, and you have to get out of there. And it's because the frequency's not matching yours, the vibration's not matching yours, and you need to get out. So get around more people that have got a high frequency, be on their frequency, and we'll lift it up together in the vibration. So that is how we infect humanity with positivity.
Yeah, definitely. It's like Ghostbusters at the end, isn't it, when they have to crack all the slime off, you know? It's a bit like that King Charles portrait inside, but it was like Vigo the Carpathian. You know, we all just kind of hug each other and start singing, then the whole thing falls down.
You know, I know.
I'm a big Ghostbusters fan.
Crazy. I've never seen anything like that before in my life. That I think that was, they must have seen Ghostbusters and went, you know, let's do it like that then, or vice versa. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that was just so weird.
It feeds the truthers, including myself, really. I did a decode on it, and it kind of went a little bit deeper on that video. It's done quite well, that video on the channel. But yeah, it's kind of more distraction, really, when really we need to get to the nitty-gritty of what the truth of all this is, really. But again, truth is a subjective concept, and as long as we keep working in it's just unity, as cheesy as it is. It really is. And arguing, like I said at the beginning, over, you know, like my nana used to say, you know, to finish on that one, you know, it don't matter what buzz you're on, we're all trying to get to the same place. So, you know, doing it together is what's important, and holding each other as brothers and sisters en route. We can all be each other's, like Samwise Gamgee. Like, I'm your Samwise Gamgee and you're mine, and we're all on the hero's journey, but we all need to aid and assist each other in it.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's brilliant. We will end it there because we'll go on forever, the next 3 hours. I know,
I can always talk.
You know, so just bear this in mind, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it, and like, go and check out Dark Matters. We'll put the links in the description and everything like that, okay? And there's like the forum on there. There's like lots. This isn't just one thing on there. There's quite a lot, so go and check it out. And no matter what bus you're on or what form of transport you're on, don't worry about it. We're all going to end up in the correct place. We just might choose a different path, a different route, and a different vehicle. But you keep going, keep your vibration high, and we'll see you all again soon. All right? You take care.